Welcome very, very much to Conversations. Pleasure to welcome to the program Lenni Brenner. And Lenni Brenner is a, I would say autodidactic, if I may. That's a proud term in my view. That is self-directed public intellectual who's written mightily. He's an intellectual of the highest order, and he's been able to find some expression through public access, which is able to provide a forum for intellectuals as well as other people that are interested only in local issues and so forth. And Lenni, welcome so very much to Conversation.
Okay, when you say autodidact, I just want to point out that the Lenni Brenner of the first Elizabethan period, okay, never went to college either. So,
all right, that's good. Yeah, and it's amazing. I got a little thing on my site now. I got an autodidact corner or something, and there's so much you can get to now with the internet in terms of having access to information.
Oh, unbelievable.
Remember how much time we used to spend in the stacks, dusty stacks and everything, and how difficult it was. It's getting much easier to have access to information, and you've written so very well. And we're talking this week about public access, and I'm happy to report the program that aired 2 days ago before this one with Dan Coughlin, our executive director, says that the franchising agreement with the cable companies for public access has finally, after a 3-year delay since 2008, been finalized to the point where the light goes on at the end of the tunnel, and it looks good for a 10-year period out into the future for public access institutionally. So I'm happy to report that, and happy to introduce you as an intellectual on that theme of the means by which the citizenry who may not be part of the established way of seeing things and everything, which is the media, the established media, can find a place to have expression in multimedia. And
well, I'll tell you, you know, I read the New York Times, and they say that they are enormously influenced by the internet. When an article appears in the New York Times, it usually appeared the day before on the New York Times internet website. All right, I mean that's what they're keeping up with is the internet website, and they go to the web, you know, to the internet to look for things. I had an experience. I can't prove it, but I believe it.
Yes,
you know what I mean. I wrote an article on Bob Dylan going to Israel as has-been Bob Dylan. All right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. About 3 or 4 days later, Maureen Dowd in the New York Times writes an article, has-been Bob Dylan on his way to China.
Got it from Brenner.
All right. Now I can't prove that.
No,
hey,
no,
you know, but the coincidence is because my article was based on the fact that I knew Bob back in 1961 when he first came to New York.
No kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Way back, the beginning.
Hey.
Village, yeah.
My claim to cultural fame, not, you know, to political fame. When he arrived in New York, I was crashing with a fellow named Paul Schoenwetter.
Okay.
And you don't know the name, but he was a banjo player, you know.
Right.
And who comes in the door but Bob?
As a youngster.
Okay. He had just gotten into New York, etc. All right. And we crashed for about 4 or 5 days together. All right. And the key to the whole thing was that he invited me to a party that he had been invited to.
Okay, yeah.
And it turned out to be Jules Pfeiffer, the cartoonist.
Great.
Okay, all right.
right.
And you know, Bob was playing folk music, etc. And when we got back to Paul's place, I told him, look, Bob, you know, all these songs about boll weevils, you know, I mean...
Woody Guthrie stuff.
Does a boll weevil fly or does it crawl? I mean, you don't know, I don't know. Write about your own times, about you and your own times. And he goes, that's what Joe Williams told me. All right? Now,
word gets around.
All right, now, you know, Joe Williams was a, you know, folk jazz singer, etc. And you know, everybody has these experiences where someone tells you something, and you know, you listen, etc., and then 6 months later, someone says the same thing, and wow, now I get it. You know, right. And that's what happened with him, because he started instantly. I don't mean, you know, went right to the desk.
Yeah,
but
right.
I mean, within a day or so, started writing songs, you know, about his own time.
Well, he was inspired by Woody Guthrie.
Oh yeah, but what I'm saying is that he hadn't really emancipated himself from that folk music thing into writing being an original composer.
Yeah, I think he was back in those early stages. He was right on the money in reading the zeitgeist. Times they are changing, and some of the songs he put out that was an exciting time.
Well, let me put it this way. I mean, I would say he wrote the anthems of his time.
Yes.
Okay. But now he goes to the Lubavitcher rabbi, the Lubavitcher synagogues, and they believe that the late Lubavitcher rabbi is the Messiah.
Yeah,
that
right.
He's not really
Schneerson,
dead, you know. Now
that would be Schneerson.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Yeah,
now to go from Martin, you know, singing along with Martin Luther King in Washington in 1963, you know.
63's early.
Yeah,
right.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, they had Bob as one of the singers there,
Okay.
and deservedly so.
Yeah, right.
All right. I understand, when I knock him now, I'm not knocking the quality of what he did then. On the contrary.
It often appears in the youth, you know. Young have a period.
Well,
Mathematics, too,
I'll tell you, I'm so used to seeing has-beens, you know, that I realize that it's a variety of normality, okay?
Yeah,
I mean,
is.
If you take, like, the English Romantic poets, you know, Wordsworth and Coleridge, etc., they all started as followers of the French Revolution.
Right, okay,
you know? All right. And the ones that survived turned into Tories in their old age. Now, you know, there's nothing more dead than a supporter of the British monarchy, you see.
Yeah, I know. Well, it is. People get ensconced in the institutions that are established. I was talking the other day to a friend of mine about the Revolutionary War in America. And Cornwallis down at Yorktown was about to have to surrender, but he had a Southern strategy. And you had the Patriots, you know, Washington, Jefferson, and all that. They're making a revolution against the feudal order. And 70%, they had a Southern strategy, Cornwallis did. And it looked like it was all over in favor of the British at that time. And 70% of the Southerners who joined in, you know, the war, as it were on the side of the Tories and of King George III.
Well, I mean,
and in support of Cornwallis.
One of Benjamin
they flocked
Franklin's
to the colors of
son was a Tory. Okay? I mean, you know, let me put it this way. In previous discussions, you've discussed how it's possible for the world to blow itself up now, you know.
I think that is true. It's
all right.
modeling.
Right.
Brought up in an existential new way.
Right.
Since about 1970.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And let me put it this way. I'm a leftist. I want a revolution. I want social change, et cetera, et cetera. But I would not be shocked if the world blew itself up, because if you look at the history of the left, okay, you have Karl Marx, you know, and he has the First International. Well, it only lasts a few years, but you know, hey, it's the first. Okay, give him a chance. Then you have the Second International, which the decisive turning point in the 20th century was in 1914, when the German Social Democratic Party, the largest socialist party in the world.
What year now?
1914. Voted to support the Kaiser in World War I, und der oft event with the spiked helmets. Remember that, the spiked helmets, you know? And you know, this was the largest socialist party in the world.
Voted for that.
Had decayed to such a degree, you know, that they voted for what everyone today understands was nothing but an imperialist war.
Why? What was there in the water or in the zeitgeist that would have caused that to happen?
All right, basically.
Or how do we explain those moments?
All right, you see, I mean, that's a key question.
Yeah, right.
Okay. I would say in that case and in many others, what you have is you have guys who start out in the working class, you know, and become parliamentarians, and they got themselves a nice job, you know?
Right, yeah.
All right. Now, they were worried
about... They get co-opted.
And they got co-opted.
Yeah.
They were worried about if they opposed the war, they might have to go to jail because, you know, the Kaiser was not a nice fella, you know? I mean, not like Mr. Hitler later, nice guy, you know? All right? And, you know, you see this in trade unions here where, you know, you just don't think of there's a Hoffa who took over from a Hoffa.
Yeah, right,
you know?
Right. Jimmy Hoffa.
All right, but I'm saying there's now another Hoffa, you know, running around.
You know, we used to have a house. I'm from Detroit. We used to have a house at Lake Orion, a little place outside of Detroit, a cottage that my grandfather had lived in. And Jimmy Hoffa, the Jimmy Hoffa, came and bought that place.
All right,
and was living there at the time when he apparently met his end.
All right, but
or had it as a summer place.
Right, but what I'm getting at is that the word trade union bureaucracy is no one is shocked by that anymore. In other words, that you get guys who you know, they run for office as rank and filers, and then they go from doing the work to being the bureaucrat.
Yeah,
you know,
bureaucracy creeps in even on all institutions.
I'm saying it seems that, you know, unless there's an increasing flow of energy from below, okay, that bureaucracy is where things end up.
Do you think the working class itself can be co-opted, and
well,
has it been?
Let me put it this way. When you talk about the working class, okay, in 1940, which was the year Leon Trotsky was assassinated, so it's a good year to start with.
Mexico.
The average, in America, only 4% of Americans had a bachelor's degree.
Yeah, I know. Okay? You're right.
All right.
Yeah, that's true.
Today, 38% of whites have a bachelor's degree. 17% of blacks have a bachelor's degree. So now if you turn that around, what you're talking about was that in 1940, you had all kinds of people who had to go to work as kids, who couldn't go to college, okay? So but they had minds, all right?
Yeah, they always did, didn't they?
All right, but what I'm saying is that today, if you look at where are the children and grandchildren of the people who built the unions in let's say the CIO in the 30s.
Yeah, okay? I was in Detroit, yeah.
All right. All their kids went to college after World War II.
Yeah.
All of them. And that's been, in other words, that you have a drift out of the blue-collar working class, of the intellectual, as you were saying. In other words, you called me before a self-taught intellectual.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a proud.
All right, but what I'm saying is that there are all kinds of people in the 30s, for example, who got interested in politics.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Who were blue-collar workers. Remember that the average kid, if you were in a working-class family in the 30s. As soon as you were 13, you could go to work. You didn't have to go to college.
That's right.
I mean, you didn't even have to go to high school.
Right.
You know, and sometimes you had to go to work.
Yeah.
Because there was no money coming into your adult family.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
All right. So
go back to Dickensian times.
All right.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is that type of intellectual is no longer really found in the very blue-collar, class.
Stratum.
All right. On the other hand, what you got like if somebody comes to deliver a package, a UPS guy comes to deliver a package, he's got a little handheld computer and stuff like that. Okay. Now, my thinking is he is stuck in the working class, but is his kid going to be a UPS delivery man? Or is he going to go to college?
Well, that's the thing that begins to... you showed me a Wall Street or New York Times article about how we may be heading, at this time, this is September 9 of 2011.
September 8.
8. Thank you for the projection. You always check your facts so carefully.
There you go.
That I respect you for very much. But anyway, for that, but they may be heading not only for, let's say, nationally and world, a recession, or perhaps a depression.
All right, let me
hold it up.
Here you go.
Give it to me. I can hold it up. You can see. And this is from the this New York Times. It would be equally so in the Wall Street Journal or any other newspaper of record. And here it is. And this is something that won't be a surprise. But we'll just hold it up.
Yeah, and it says, I'll read it. Stalled economy and ominous data suggests strong chance of a relapse.
Strong chance of a relapse. That'd be a double dip, or it could be even a Great Depression.
Well, that's really what they're worried about. I mean, in other words, the economists. What I have found, and you can put here. Let me get the paper from you. The economists.
You want to hold it?
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
that,
okay,
we don't have to waive it.
Yeah.
The people got the point.
Yeah.
But what I'm arguing is that the economists, I find now when I read the Times business section, or the Wall Street Journal, or the London Financial Times, or Barron's, etc., whenever there's a good statistic, more homes were sold last month.
There have been very few.
There's always a but. But. But if you look at, and in other words, they've been. There's an old proverb: "Stung by the bee, afraid of the moth."
Oh, okay. I heard that,
In other words, they've been bitten enough times that they're now automatically, even when the news is good, they expect any minute we're going to get bit again.
Right? Yeah. There's angst in the air.
Yeah,
negative
right. And what that article that we just showed the folks made exactly that point. Once you start. Once everybody gets into that framework of, we're in for grief, you're almost guaranteeing the grief.
Yeah.
Because, well, should I get a new home? I mean, if I might not have this job, and then I'm stuck with a new home and I can't sell it. So I'll stay here. So, and all right. Or should I get a new car, or should I, in other words, everything becomes a should I, maybe I can do without it mentality, and that just breeds.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you something else.
And it's coming to a pretty pass.
Yeah. But now here's the key. The thing that really puts the gloom over the gloom, I mean, really polishes it up, is the fact that the public doesn't trust either the Democratic or the Republican Party.
I think that's increasingly
true. Well, you see, part of it was the fight that they just had over the debt ceiling, where what you had was a Democratic president and a Republican House of Representatives.
Right.
All right?
After 2010,
And you suddenly realize, wait a minute, there's a built-in flaw built into the Constitution.
Well,
see, they were trying to keep the government from being too dominating.
Right.
Okay.
Well, they had lived under monarchy. Yeah.
All right. But today, the government either is efficient or it isn't efficient. In other words, you're dealing now with a population of 310 million people. All right, that's just here, and in a world economy. So you have to have a government that can make decisions
adroitly.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And not have a fist fight between a president who was elected in 2008, and a House of Representatives who was elected in 2010.
Which has a diametrically opposed idea of reading of the zeitgeist.
Right.
Yeah.
So this adds to the gloom, and then you have like the Tea Party came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Now what they're finding is that even some of the Tea Party people are saying, "Hey, wait a minute. I mean, if we don't start producing some jobs, I mean, we're in trouble."
Well, they're all saying that. That's what Mr. Obama says as well.
All right, but
he's going to talk to us tonight.
All right, but what the Tea Party was all about was cutting the debt.
Yeah, right.
All right. Well, the only way you're going to have the government ordering new jobs is by increasing the debt. Okay, and see, but understand again, it's the end of the line for the system in a sense that.
That's a big statement.
Well, I mean,
the system that's held since 1776.
Let me give an example of what I mean so that the folks can get it. In October, Obama pushed through the biggest military deal in American arms history.
Saudi Arabia?
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
60
$20 billion?
60 to $90 billion.
Well, that's a chief export of the United States, our weapons.
All right, okay.
To all the,
all right,
yeah.
Now, that is stimulus.
Yeah, it is stimulus for Boeing.
All right, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
In other words, at this particular point, if people put pressure on the government to stop the arms deal to Saudi Arabia, what are those companies going to be putting out?
That's right.
Vacuum cleaners?
Not only the thing to Saudi Arabia, that's a biggie. Saudi Arabia is so retrograde for crying out. Women can't drive cars. I mean, it's ridiculous, and we're doing that. But also all those predators that are dropping on everybody all over the world. It's like some science fiction horror movie. You don't even have to have a person being threatened, a pilot. It used to be you had a pilot could be shot down. Now the drones can go and drop them all over the place.
I mean,
and
look,
they're dropping them all over the place.
I mean, what you got is a high-tech world, which in a certain sense puts out of business the unskilled worker. In other words, I have a relative who has a factory, small factory, which produces a lot of goods because you don't need a lot of workers, okay? But his problem is getting workers who know enough about computers and stuff like that to do the work.
Well, when you get, that's the thing, if I may, that thing is, my granddaddy was a union organizer in the turn of the century, 19th, 20th century. He was a lithographer. There weren't labor unions in a sense, that was to come, but it was like a guild that was coming out and everything like that. And then you had all that going on, Henry Ford and then the labor unions, they won. And then coming out of the Second War, you had a big growth of this economy. We were victorious out of that war. We had built up a big war machine that could be converted, and we had a growth of the middle class that was going.
Right.
And it was Lord Keynes who more or less said, Lord John Maynard Keynes, who set up the template for Mr. Roosevelt, New Deal, and that kind of thing, plus the time afterward. And Lord Keynes said, and this is something relevant perhaps to what you were saying, I'm not sure, but he said in a letter to his grandchildren, among his many writings, in a letter to his grandchildren, addressed in their maturity, which would be about now, is that the country, he's talking about America, but the world, and we're a trendsetter, is going to be confronted with something that's very hard for people to understand within his demand side view of creating jobs and distributing demand buying power to the people through demand side. He said it's going to be technologically induced massive unemployment. And if you've got a free market where you can invest in a country anywhere in the world adroitly, containerization, all the other things, Walmart type stuff, all that, you can do that. And if you get an algorithm that can displace 500,000 people who were connecting telephone lines or something manual or assembly line visions and that kind of thing, if you get a thing where it can be done that way through the technology that is structural, it's not political, it's not demand side, supply side arguments like the politicians are talking about right now in this season, it's structural, that unemployment is structural and will be unstructural at a level of trend setting for the planet. is most felt here.
Well, I'll tell you.
It's not like a political thing to be decided, and he might very well be correct. And the only way we have in the world, and it seems to me, Lenny, I don't know, you had a Bolshevik thing in Russia, did away with private sector and all that kind of thing. But on the whole, since about 1776, we got a system going here. The world's more or less adopted the model that was set up by the United States. It's now turning out weapons. It's got drones and weapon bases all over the world.
All right, now you hit the key.
And now wait, not quite done, right? It got that thing. And they don't have a system, and it's all predicated upon the idea that it seems to be perfectly all right. The statistics clearly show all the capital assets, the combines, the factories that can turn out things without people, that kind of thing, algorithms, and the capital assets are all owned by a tiny plutocratic class in every country in the world, including the United States of America. And the only way they have had traditionally, politically, to distribute buying power, dollars, money to the people is for them to have a job, like a serf on a feudal estate. The serf was, a job, labor distribution, and the left has been all enamored by the labor theory value of how important labor is, and that's coming to where it doesn't serve well now. So the left doesn't have a narrative, or the progressive community doesn't have a narrative that picks up on the angst, and who's picked it up has been this Tea Party and the Republicans. Are they going to win the election? Address some of that.
You made your point, but now the contradictions come up.
Okay.
You see, the post-World War II sudden rise of the middle class. Okay.
Yeah.
They passed the law during World War II, GI Bill to educate people.
Yeah,
so a lot of people went into...
Wait,
you had your say. Let me finish.
Say.
Okay.
Right.
Essentially, what happened after World War II was it went from World War II right into the Cold War, and what you had was the permanent war economy.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
That's what kept the daddy serf in the factory.
Daddy Warbucks.
Okay, and sent his son to college.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now you have a situation where I was reading the other day, they're debating, how much should we spend on trips to Mars? In other words, out of the war economy, you had rocketry.
Right,
okay.
Werner von Braun.
All right, Werner von Braun, a good fellow like Werner, they bad-mouthed him because he tried to blow up Berlin, but he was a good guy, All right, so what you have now is this high-tech economy, and the problem is, and here is what you neglect in terms of the labor theory of value. The problem with the capitalist system is that it tends to overproduce. In other words, you can now send a high-tech factory, ship it over to China, okay, and it produces at a lower price than here,
right.
On and on. All right. So what you have now is all this was done with debt. Okay.
Well, okay, go on.
All right. In other words, it was every conceivable kind of wheeling and dealing and jiving and conniving within that capitalist system. Look, for example, we have been at war now literally for 10 years in Afghanistan.
Amazing. Yeah,
all right. But we've been there, the reason why we've been there for 10 years is that we've really been there for 30 years. It was the United States under Jimmy Carter who decided to back the Islamic fundamentalist terrorists.
After Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in
before.
79, yeah.
It turns out now that he started to fund them before the Soviets invaded. And see, the Soviets didn't invade. The Soviets came in to Afghanistan at the request of the left-wing Afghan government. The Soviets came in there because they were worried that the fundamentalists were going to beat the government.
Okay, I got you.
All right, what I'm getting at...
That's interesting, yeah.
All right, what I'm getting at is the United States through the Bin Ladens and the Pakis and the Saudis, etc., fought a war against a pro-Soviet regime, okay, whose among its crimes was teaching women how to drive cars and how to read and write.
Against all careful reading of the
all right, but
Quran.
you get my point. In other words, let me put it this way: the post-war World War II economy was within the framework of a rigidly imperialist capitalist system.
Well, if I may, it was also within the realm of George Kennan's containment and reading of things geostrategically. And they've always seen that you've got the world island, and you've got that part of the Eurasian landmass invulnerable to sea power. Britain was sea power, we were sea power, and you had he who controls the North European plain controls the heartland, that part invulnerable to sea power. And he who controls the heartland controls the world island, that whole Eurasian landmass and everything. And so they had this view of strategic thinking that informed the whole thinking beyond, I mean, before the modern era. But that was what we were fighting. And so you had a picture like Soviets fell, they controlled that. Then you had 48, you had the China like a big red amoeba coming out. So that was the basis of the thinking of containing communism. It would fall of its own weight, which it did.
All right,
but that was what was, that's Korea, that's Vietnam,
right, but
and that's Afghanistan.
What they were defending from communism was...
Well, it was a strategic thing in base of land power, sea power, and communism was an ideology.
After the Vietnam War, the military thinkers at Fort Leavenworth and Military College and at Annapolis in the Navy, they came to the conclusion that they never could have won the war. And the reason why was that they had neglected what they had actually learned in military college.
It was a nationalist
war
thing.
Is nothing but the continuation of politics by other means.
That's von Clausewitz.
Famous line by von Clausewitz.
Yeah.
Okay. The conclusion that they came to was that they had taken over the French colonial regime.
54.
All right. And as far as the average Vietnamese peasant were concerned, they were nothing but English-speaking Frenchmen.
Right. Colonialism was a...
Right. So you see, so what I'm getting at is that now we're running into a kind of super surreal end of capitalism.
Schumpeter said that it won't survive. I mean, the famous one who was in contradistinction to Keynes, who said a great creative entrepreneurialism that the right wing uses so much now. Said capitalism won't be able to survive as we understand it.
I mean, let me put it this way.
It should be hoisted on its own
very
petard.
distinctive thing that I would say is I can't. I'm not a prophet, so I don't predict the future. Okay. But I can look at the present.
Yeah.
There is no doubt that the government is the central player in the American economy,
and it ought to be.
Well, but all right. But what I'm getting at is all this Tea Party cut the government down stuff. No.
It's market fundamentalism.
It's primitive. It's more than fundamental. I mean, it's kindergarten capitalism. You know.
Well, okay, go on. Yeah.
In other words, at this particular point, like for example, we have a situation now where the post office is near to bankrupt.
Yeah.
Okay. Because now you don't send letters in the mail anymore. You send an email.
Right.
All right. Well, that's a certain amount of money. You know, that's X number of postage stamps.
That's big time technological displacement of a lot of postal workers.
All right. So,
major things since 1776.
Now, if you start laying off postal workers, what kind of job are they supposed to get?
Back again, Lenny, if we could jump right to the present, he was maybe prescient in the fact that the production is increased. You could do a graph. Production, labor input to one side, the other side, everything else, every natural resources, technological instruments, and the trend has been since 1776, maybe 10% was anything other than labor. Had to cut down trees with a hatchet. There was no mass production, nothing. And it's gone now to where in the modern American economy is probably 80, 90% is actually capital instruments. And it's all owned by a tiny plutocratic class. The labor input to production, when you have a combine, it's going across the field and produces 20 billion barrels of grain and there's not even a driver, it's a little hard to try and distribute demand to the people when you've got that machine owned by the plutocrats.
I emphasize
that labor theory of value has informed the left in order to get a better minimum wage.
You said something before.
And you directed me, you didn't address it.
You said something before.
That's outdated.
True. The biggest export of the United States is weapons.
Now, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
In other words, that's government policy.
Okay. Well, okay.
You see, you get my point. In other words, war is not a capitalist, a free market thing. We don't have privateers, if you follow me.
Right.
We have a few companies like, that get sent over. They're really CIA fronts,
They're all over the place.
Yeah, but it's the government that wages war.
Well, that's a different dialectic. That's like you got the government and the private sector. And the people are saying the private sector, Mr. Reagan said, the government's the problem. You can't have the government. The government has some representation for the national economy, including some of the things Mr. Keynes said. Social Security, Medicare, some of these things that were enacted.
I don't see an economy with less government. The question is what kind of government? Who does it represent?
Well, all right. Some of the things that are trying to be vouchsafed by Mr. Obama, who inherited a mess. Another thing I'd like to ask you here, just on a sidebar kind of way and everything, you study history, I know you do. Was it possible in 1929 we had a great crash, we had a Great Depression, terrible, the country was in a mess, and then Mr. Roosevelt got elected, 32, okay? And then in 1933, 34, 35, 36 were the retrograde, it would have been caused by the capitalists. By the swing of the economy.
What are you asking me?
I'm asking you, were they able to blame Roosevelt for the depression that they had created the way this right wing is blaming Obama for all the problems there are that were largely inherited over that huge tax cut that Mr. Bush did, fighting unfounded wars.
Okay, I understand. I get your point.
Were they able to get away with that like they're getting away with it now, blaming him for all the problems that they helped largely to create?
The Depression happened in 1929, and Roosevelt didn't come to power until 33.
Okay,
so the result is there was no doubt in anybody's minds that it was a Republican recession. Now, in fact, by 1937,
go on, talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
From 33 to 37, hey, Roosevelt's trying to do something. But by 1937, you began to get another recession. And
That's true.
What you might call left-of-center liberals don't understand was that Roosevelt ultimately didn't get us out of the Depression. The war did.
Because you can spend deficits.
All right. I would argue that today it's the opposite in only one degree. In other words, that it's the wars that are part of the problem of producing the economic crisis. In other words, what do you do? You've got all these guys in the military. If you don't pay them, what job are they supposed to do?
They're in all the stands now. They're surrounding China. They're in all over the world. It's expanding and so forth, and they're making predators to put on everywhere.
All right.
And it's partly because they do not have a system that can address what the future requires.
All right. Well,
at a level of economic theory and political theory.
Let me put it this way. With regards to Obama. Now, this isn't economics, but it tells you the whole story in a way. Obama wrote an article for Foreign Affairs magazine when he was running for president, in which he gave as his heroes Roosevelt, Truman, and Kennedy.
Okay.
Yeah. The only problem with that is he was a lawyer. I mean, he was a super lawyer. He knows Roosevelt put the Japanese Americans in concentration camps. He knew that Harry Truman dropped the atom bomb. He knew that the Kennedy brothers wiretapped Martin Luther King. In other words,
nobody's perfect.
I mean, let me put it this way. I would go the opposite. I would say that Obama is essentially made up his mind that he didn't want to be a Stokely Carmichael or a Martin Luther King. They got they got civil rights. Now into the system he went. I would take it a step further.
Yeah,
I would take it a step further.
I love
you know that 18% of the American people think that Obama is a Muslim.
Yeah, it's strange.
Okay.
Vance Packard all over
all right.
again.
Now, I can't prove this, but if you ask me what is Obama's religion, I'd say he's an atheist. I'd say that basically, well, see, his mother was an atheist, and his father became an atheist. You know, his Muslim.
Two pretty big influences.
All right, now I don't know too many people who come from atheist families who get religious. You know, that's very rare. Okay, but I'll tell you what he was doing. I think he decided to become religious because if enough voters are stupid enough to be religious, he was smart enough to become religious.
Well, it was a political thing to do.
You get my point.
To get elected.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
In other words, you know,
Perhaps,
let me put it this way, lesser evilism and cynicism are the dominant, real dominant private ideologies of the left-of-center intelligentsia.
You wrote the book on that, didn't you? The Lesser
All right.
Evil.
Because
the
I
Democratic
never,
Party.
I wrote a book called
you
The
wrote
Lesser Evil,
a great book.
A History of the Democratic
They're all
Party.
Good, yeah.
And the reason I called it The Lesser Evil is that I didn't know even one serious intellectual who believed in the Democratic Party like someone believes in a church. You know, I believe in Jesus. You know? It was always, you got to be realistic.
Yeah, the realism thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, C. Wright Mills put it very nicely.
Power elite?
Crackpot realism.
Crackpot, you're right. Okay,
all right?
yeah.
That's what that's all about. All right. So what you got now, let me put it this way. Obama didn't create this recession, depression, whatever you want to call it, but he signed up for the Democratic Party, which had no solution to it.
Well, wait a minute. Where else would he sign up but the Democratic
All right,
Party?
but what you see, that's my point. I didn't sign up. In other words, they ain't accusing me of the depression.
What is the problem? What is the problem that's confronting us outside of the political maneuvering of the Republican Democrat, including that Tea Party wing and everything like that we saw
last night? Is
that
we who are trying to be honest and of the people, by the people, and for the people, got to set up our own party. It's the height of hypocrisy.
Well, wait a minute. You're saying
the Chinese have a proverb. It's the height of hypocrisy to look for the sacred emperor in the low-class tea shops.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard that.
Well, I mean, it's a classic Chinese proverb, all right? And it's the height of hypocrisy to look for a genuine reformer in a party that again and again and again has committed war crimes. Look, the Democratic Party wiretapped Martin Luther King, okay? Yeah. It can build all the statues it wants of Martin Luther King, but they just renamed the Triborough Bridge for Bobby Kennedy, who signed the papers to wiretap Martin Luther King. Okay. Now, what you can't, let me put it this way, a government, a political system that tries to run with the fox and hunt with the hounds is a fraud.
Well, yeah, but all of this said, there's something and somebody you could come up with anything about anybody almost, because there's nobody been pristine pure in the political process. There's all a give and take, and there's a lot of shenanigans going on always. James Joyce said history is a nightmare of injustice. It's just the norm coming out of history. But again, come back to the question existentially. What is the problem that is confronting us?
Let me put it this way. I don't know if we can build a genuine political party that can replace the present two.
Would that help?
But wait a minute. But I do know this. If we don't replace them, then we're in for a disaster.
Okay, what I'm trying to say is, what is the structural problems? What is the existential reality of this planet, third in this universe, this solar system, and so forth, that makes things so existentially challenging
All right,
now?
I'll answer
rather
your question.
than the political party thing
all right.
of who's got the answer. First of all, the intellectuals
let
have all
me
been
give you
co-opted.
a statistic. About 5 years ago, the Pew people did a poll, and they found 72% of Republicans and 67% of Democrats believe in the devil. Okay?
You got to be kidding.
All right, now wait.
Well, no, they have to have a definition.
No. I mean, you know, they asked, and that was the answer. Now wait a minute.
All right.
Now you can run those kinds of comedy statistics.
Yeah.
I have a file of them now.
I know, you
How
probably
many
do.
people believe that visitors have come here from other planets?
Yeah.
I'm from Mars. I mean,
right. Okay,
I haven't told you that yet.
Well,
but
I'm not sure if I'm from Venus.
I'm from Mars.
Or not.
Everybody,
you
I'm
have
a
that
Martian.
Martian way about you.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
All right.
No.
Now, now, basically speaking, what has simply happened is that you have a intelligentsia.
It's been co-opted.
Well, let me put it this way: you have a fanatic intelligentsia, which is, you know, I mean, the people who really believe in the devil. You know, I went to, St. Mary's Catholic school, and I believe in the devil. All right, you know, they really
Jesuits
they
can
really
be pretty
do.
strong. Yeah.
But then you got the whole Democratic Party, which is full of cynics who, I went to St. Mary's Catholic school, you know, or Governor Cuomo, okay? I'm a Catholic, he's a Catholic, and he's living with his mistress, okay? Now, why is he still a Catholic? Because in political circles, the theory is, if you leave a church, if a politician leaves the church, he antagonizes the people that stay in the church. Mm-hmm. They don't care if he's a sinner.
As long as he stays in the church.
As long as he stays in the church. But if he stays in the church, what he's really saying is, you're crazy.
Well, yeah, I'd like to see some of those files. But again, I get back to the question.
All right, so
no,
what I'm getting at...
Yeah, we only got about 5 minutes left.
Let me put it this way. What I would basically say is this. If the economy collapses deep enough, all right, that will start even the devil worship, the devil believers, into saying, what the hell is, I believe in the devil, but what the hell is going on here?
It would open up to irrationality writ large.
It will open them up to answers, good ones and
irrationalities,
bad ones.
many of them.
All right, so what I'm trying to get at is that if us people who are trying to seriously think about the world get our act together, then we have a chance. I mean, Marx, as he got older, you know, some journalists asked him, well, what's going to happen, Mr. Marx? And he put it very nicely, socialism or barbarism.
Well, that's one way.
All right.
It.
Now, you know, I mean, you know, socialism.
I'd like to bring that up to date a little.
All right. Well, what I'm saying is that I can't give you a guarantee. Here, let me just sign this guarantee. I promise you, everybody's going to overthrow the government. We're going to live happily ever after. All I'm saying is, we got a chance, and I wouldn't be shocked if the world blew itself up. In other words, who you know, this governor of Texas who's
Rick Perry.
Woo!
He's the inside track now to get
all
the
right.
nomination.
I mean, you know, now let me put it this way: he's so crazy that the newspapers are making jokes at his expense. So
he may be.
He may.
But what are you going to get? Mitt
all right.
Romney?
But what I'm trying to get at is that what you got is that kind of fanatic and you know, fraudster You got fanatics.
You've made a point. Can I make a point?
Sure.
Can I do it? Now, you're still talking around, let me make a point, okay? I did a program with Isaac Asimov, great polymath, great guy. He said, I'm making the point, trying to make the point, that this generation, now, let's say this would be now, this period, is the defining generation, not in the politics of the United States or the good party or the Marx or something. It's a defining moment in the evolution of consciousness.
Yeah.
Now, what does that mean? And when you throw off, if I may, Lenny, I love you, but when you throw off, well, we can blow it all up. Realize we've been here 200,000 years. We had a telescope that's going to take a picture of the Big Bang, 13.8 billion years. They defunded it within a nanosecond. Big accomplishment in terms of taking the measure of things intellectually with this extended capability. And one extension of that is weapons. We're now the leading weapons. Well, the weapons systems now, and from the modeling, have since, even in 62, we would have been protected from species lethality. In 62 in the Cuban Missile, all right? But after about 1970, the weapons became existentially species lethal. They're going to wipe out the entire species.
You know, we're saying the same thing.
No, we're not.
Over.
We're not. No, wait a minute. You made a long statement. Let me make a statement. Let me try to bring it up to date or something.
All right.
So that is that 1970 is a crucial year. We live in a crucial time. History is coming. We have to anchor to history. We have to do that. But then on the other side, the technological capability has also, on the positive side, that's the negative side. On the positive side, it's also bringing in through good design and through capability. That was all pre-cyber. All right.
Okay.
It's getting to where we actually do have the ability to take care of all of human beings. Let me finish. Let me make the finish. To take care of existentially new, that's the point, as equally significant as the destruction, is the ability to take care of everybody in the world, which has not been available to us historically. We were impotent at that level, as we were impotent to destroy the species. Within an ecological context, the ability to take care, that we have transcended at the level of capability. It's a latent capability. It's not, there's two realities. There's a reality we inherit from history, and then that, and to transcend material scarcity.
All right, look.
Now wait a minute.
It's really, look.
Wait a minute.
We're saying the same thing
over and over again.
And in order to do that,
no, we're not. I haven't finished.
That's the point. You're going over and over again.
No, I'm not going. You went over the thing about Marx endlessly, about the need for a new political party, which is small potatoes.
What I'm saying is that we have the ability, the technological ability to blow each other up. And on the other hand, we have the technological ability through the internet of communicating.
No, not communicating. Liberate or annihilate. That's what it comes down to.
All right,
we can liberate. We have not
to,
been able to liberate.
Look, we started out with talking about
and it's about economics.
How wonderful it is to have public access TV.
Thank you. That's where it might come out.
And I'm ending the show, as it were, by saying that that's precisely the thing, is that now we have the ability to have this kind of discussion, and after it shows on TV, it goes on the internet, and people can see it all over the world.
Yeah.
All right. That's...
Why is it never mentioned? No, could you cognate on the idea it may be correct, transcend material scarcity, transcend zero-sum, transcend political history, transcend history to get into a new context and universe? That's what I'm saying we're at now. It's not just another political party.
Well,
and the left or the intellectuals have been so made innocuous by specialization. There's no systems thinking about the thing in a large pattern. And it may be on public access. Some thinking, large-scale thinking.
Let me put it this way.
Could really creep through.
Again, as I say, it's a sort of 6 of one and half a dozen of the other situation. That on the one hand, this technology has given us the ability to communicate simultaneously.
Why say
Come on, let me speak. Hey.
Well, okay, but give me a chance to make that right.
No, let me finish. I'm trying to say that we have now this enormous dialectic of disaster and the potential of salvation.
Well, salvation, why don't you say liberation?
Call it whatever you want.
Uniquely new. That's the point.
I'm trying to say, but on the other hand, the technology is uniquely new, but on the other hand, the battle between the rich and the poor is not
That's the point,
new.
for crying out loud. It's the technology that has that, and it's all owned by a tiny class. The left is so blinkered by the idea.
No.
The only thing they talk about are jobs.
I'm saying
the only way they're going to get demand.
I'm saying the freaky thing about the technology is the internet is not owned by the ruling class.
Of course it is. All technology
Excuse me,
is.
the technology may be owned, but the plain fact of the matter is, as long as we're using it, I send out messages to, like the article
Well,
on
if you
Dylan.
can keep net neutrality, if you can keep some sort of thing like that.
Well,
but the resource base, including the technology of communication, is owned by a tiny plutocrat, and they don't have a vision of getting demand and buying power into the hands of the people who would be liberated from the context of being served.
But
they don't have that. The intellectual left does not have. They are the problem. Without coming up with a thing.
I'm arguing this way, that the capitalist system has produced a population where 38% are whites and 17% of blacks have
go to university where they get co-opted by specialization.
No, let me put it this way.
There's no systems thinking.
Let me put it this way. They have now the possibility of thinking their way out of the trap that they're in. And that's all.
Well, one thing for sure is, all the king's horses and all the king's men and all the peer-reviewed journals and all of the institutions and all of the professors have not come up with an adequate answer to an operating manual for Spaceship Earth, taking into account the existential reality, and the intellectuals, autodidactic or otherwise, have not been able to find a place where they can express systems understanding of the whole process of universe that is relevant to get the answer. So it's the intellectuals that are falling down on the job, and the universities just train people for a job. That's all they're looking for, because they want to get a job where they can make money.
Now, let me ask you a question. How much time do we have?
We only got about 1 minute and a half. So we ought to let you have a say.
All right. All I can say is, again, we got a chance due to the high-tech technology.
Including public access cable television.
Including public access.
You should become a regular member over here.
I am actually a producer.
No, you just come on other people's show.
Yeah.
Okay. We're out?
All right.
Okay, come. Oh, goodbye. Goodbye. We're supposed to say goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
Hey,
say goodbye.
Bye-bye. Don't blow up before the next show.
Good to see you, Lenny.
Right.
Good to see you as always. Hey, tune in. We'll try to come back tomorrow. They just signaled to say goodbye. Goodbye. Okay, good talking to you. We'll take it up on another occasion. You ought to get your own series going.